This chat's a good one. We talk about Roundnet Germany's player zone, the development it has enabled, and what the rest of the Roundnet world can learn from it and hopefully build on, literally. Plus, I share something on my wish list for the 2024 Roundnet World Championship, so make sure you listen all the way to the end. As always, this is not a two-person conversation, so let us know your thoughts as you listen along, and I look forward to catching up in the comments and continuing the conversation in future videos. And one last disclaimer, as I always like to do, this is just based on my own individual opinion, my 2 cents. I think USA Roundnet, International Roundnet Federation, every other NGB should have their own tool similar to the player zone. It's really impactful, really useful, but I'll let you guys listen through and you can decide for yourselves. Let me know. Enjoy the chat. Today I'm super excited. I'm talking to longtime board member, lead of communications and marketing. It's Philipp Kessel. Philipp, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your background with Roundnet and Roundnet Germany before we jump into the meat of this conversation?
Hi guys, thanks Ben for having me. Just a quick introduction of me. I'm Philipp. I'm 31 years old. I'm from Cologne, Germany, and I'm very excited about Roundnet. I started playing in 2016, and then in late 2019 I got involved with Roundnet Germany. Then we founded the federation, and since then I'm a founding member. I'm in the board for marketing and communications, as Ben said. So most likely everything which is on social media out there is on me, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, but I'm also much involved into the player zone, not on the coding stuff, but more having ideas. And then we have the guy who's doing the coding. And I think that will be a huge topic for today.
The player zone is something that is, I would say, like the crown jewel maybe of not just Roundnet Germany, but maybe as far as like Roundnet community projects go, one of the coolest things that has happened in the sport. And if I'm not mistaken, solely on a volunteer basis. So could you tell a little bit more about the history of the player zone coming to fruition? When did it start? What were the conversations like? And how has that vision come together? Where are we now in the vision of Roundnet Germany using the player zone to grow the sport?
Yeah, maybe for everybody around there who's not knowing what the player zone is, it's basically the core website for everything depending around in Germany. So the tournaments are there, the scores are there, you have your own profiles, and everything started in early 2020 when Niels and Lucas from the board just wanted to create a ranking which isn't based on I do a Excel sheet on myself and do all the math, but making it as a code. And then we found Martin Lang from Leverkusen, which is close to Cologne. They were talking about it, and that's where it started. And I think we're talking more about all the features which are in there right now. It's pretty amazing what you can do. I think if you have the time, go to the player zone because it's also available in English. So everybody who is listening to this podcast or video should be able to have a look. And that's everything. The rankings are there, tournaments are there. That's the short introduction, I think.
Yeah, there's some other small things. I know like tournament predictions is a thing that you shared with like the community for Worlds a couple of years ago. I would guess that's probably going to be a fun thing you do again on there because you've got it all gamified. But usually I don't tell people to like pause this and like go away from the video, but like totally like take a minute. It'll be linked in the description of this video. Go check out the player zone. Spend a couple minutes. You can come back and then learn a little bit more about just how things are going into the future and what it's maybe enabled for you guys. So as far as all these features you've talked about, it all kind of coming together under the hood, I wanted to like look at what does that maybe mean for decision making you've done. You mentioned to me before we started recording that maybe there's some more freedom in how Roundnet Germany functions. Is there a specific example of maybe a new project you guys worked on because you had this player zone as a tool in your arsenal?
Obviously, because talking about a tournament and how it is structured with group stages and brackets and so on, we have the total freedom of creating our own system, which is great. But if we are talking about one specific thing, I have to mention the German Roundnet League or the Bundesliga, because we have a very special way to play it, similar to what we are doing at Worlds. So you have a squad and you play men, women, and mixed games. And we were able to program this. So there's in a game against another team, you have your men, women, and mixed, and you can insert all the scores in there. And I think I don't know another website which is that detailed to this detailed schedule. So yeah, that's
Yeah, that's
great for
awesome.
us.
As someone who personally like I love to run tournaments, and I also love to run tournaments that are wacky and wild squad structures where you're like switching your teammates and all these fun things. But at the end of the day, I like to say I hack Fuego is what we mostly use in the U.S., where I just kind of come up with my own coding scheme of what things mean, and then I can tell other people what it represents of who played who. But usually, I just have to use like pencil and paper to actually manage the schedule, help explain to everybody the flow of the day. So yeah, having this technology is incredible. It also means I know last year there were over 1,000 players in Bundesliga, so it's something that scales versus
Yeah.
usually at a tournament. If you have even more than 20 or 30 teams and you don't have good technology, you have to figure something crazy out to manage all those people. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
I did my first tournaments back in 2018, obviously with pencil and own coded Excel sheets, which worked, but it works for small tournaments, as you said, but it doesn't work for a Bundesliga with, I think we have now 1,400 people or something signed up. Yeah.
That's incredible. And something that you mentioned that feeds into it, we've got like these rankings for players. So not only do people have their rankings increase or decrease based on their wins and losses, you have kind of like an ELO rating with the Roundnet Germany index score. So that's one way for people to track their progress. But also, you've been able to kind of build up this repository of data over years and years. Are there any dream projects you mentioned? It's maybe early on, and I know around the world, everybody in the Roundnet community, we're pretty bad at like actually putting the scores in. But as we maybe build this culture of getting, the scores in, not just 1-0, but like an actual game score, an actual set score. And then, if it's gamer set, you tell me in the chat or the comments. But as far as building out like this repository of data, what are some things that you're maybe hoping that Roundnet Germany can do with that information?
As I have a background in basketball, which is obviously a very data driven sport. I can think of so many things. Right now, we have some little statistics in there which says, okay, you have won that percentage of games you played, you have won so many games against this person. But I'm also in the background working with one or two guys to do some more fun stuff. Just thinking about, okay, longest winning streak, game with the most scored points, longest game. So to sum it up, I think data and statistics are important to be able to tell stories about the sport. And if you are able to tell the people, okay, this is a record, he just broke the record because he did whatever, you maybe are able to interest more people into the sport. And yeah, I don't have a very specific thing, but I hope that one day, maybe in the short future, we have a website on the player zone, which is solely about statistics, and you can look it up if you're a stats guy as me.
I mean, you touched on a couple of like specific examples. So I think that's excellent. I do want to shout out. I know in the U.S. Something that has been built on top of the U.S. player ratings is kind of like these player pages, where lets you kind of track your rating over time, or see like what was your best upset, like what was your chance of winning, how often do you win games when you're favored to win versus lose. But that's much more at like the individual level versus having like these aggregated statistics of all of Roundnet Germany, all of the U.S., any country, any continent, the world, as far
Yeah,
as the stats is something that just takes a lot of like collective organization. And I know for Germany, something great that's been going on is how interconnected Germany has been in its growth versus I think a lot of other countries are still building those connections, building those data connections. Where in the U.S., more Roundnet is played that is not sanctioned than is sanctioned by a very large margin. I think it's great to have unsanctioned play for like grassroots and growing the sport. But if people are playing seriously and competing, I see no reason to not include those in your data sets. And so
yeah.
that's definitely a really cool opportunity that you guys have seized on, and that I personally, just for my own part, I'm really hoping the U.S. can work on building and have something. If it wasn't exactly the player zone, something similar in function to it, because I'm definitely a little bit envious.
Yeah, as you said, it's so important. We are lucky that almost every tournament which is played in Germany is sanctioned. and therefore we have the data for it. Or there are many grassroots tournaments which are not in the player zone, but all the tournaments on the player zone are sanctioned, and so we can collect the data. So if we have some people, we started recording everything in 2021, who have 400, 500 games. And if I talk about games, I talk about the whole thing where you have to win 2 sets. We have in the data, so it's very good databases to tell what their records are. So I'm also responsible for the stream in Germany. We've built a website where I can go to the statistics and see how those 4 people involved played against each other in Germany. And then I can say, okay, we have Marcus here who played 10 times against his opponent and never won. Let's see if he can do it right now, or if he still has the losing streak. So yeah, that's about talking.
Those people don't like the data because it scares them. Like, I don't want to know the streaks.
Yeah. Those are
for the fans in their community, though. It's definitely cool to root for the underdog. So there's mostly upside. I'm just joking around with the underdogs there.
And as you said, the rankings, our ELO system, our Roundnet Germany index, is completely automated. And you can see after the tournaments around 10 o'clock in the evening, all the ELO gets they get renewed, and you have people there, if you are in the bar or whatever, sitting there at 10 o'clock on their phones and checking how their ELO went. So in the competitive scene, it's very, very there, and the people having a look there because it's important to them.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, right? You have to have a thing that works for the national, but also for the individual. It needs to give value to them. Just to focus on that for a little bit, you have this ELO score. What does it actually mean? I know there's a pro division, and I know there's a couple of divisions that are played. Can you talk a little bit more about Roundnet Germany's system with ELOs, maybe division cutoffs or qualifications, and are there different ways to qualify? I know there's lots of different statuses around the world now, and hearing more about one that has all this infrastructure behind it is super fascinating.
Maybe starting where we come from. I think like everybody from the beginning in 2021, we had a ranking system where you collected points based off your finishing in the tournament. So if there was a big tournament and you won it, you got 500 points, and the second one got 400 points, and so on. Then we just added them throughout the season. But we felt like that this system isn't a precise system to say who's the best player, but maybe it's just saying who is the best player under all the players who are playing much. Because obviously...
Who's the most player?
Yeah, that's it. So we did a little cutoff there, and then we said, okay, only the six best points count. But obviously it wasn't a good ranking or the best ranking to say who's the best player. And that's why we introduced the Roundnet Germany Index, the ELO system in 2020. And this is a statistic number, a statistic score everybody has who played a tournament once. And it says, okay, you start with a certain value, depending on which division you start. And if you are playing against another person, this person has another value. The higher the value, the better you are. And depending on the outcome of this game, you lose or win points. Obviously, if you are the underdog and you are winning against the highly favored person, you win points and the other one loses points. So that's the short introduction. And the ELO isn't a system which get cut off after a year, but you have it just for the whole time, and it develops, and it's like the rating for the level of play you have. Was this understandable for you, Ben?
Definitely understandable for me, and I think you did a good job. I have looked at some ELO models. I'm enough of a fan of like sports and statistics to keep up.
Yeah.
I think if anybody needs an explainer, I would recommend probably looking at chess is, I think, the world standard in using ELO, or at least the biggest sport competition that's using it until Roundnet catches up to chess, in like
we also
5 decades.
We also on our website have a page where the ELO system, the Roundnet Germany Index, is explained, also in English. So I think if you Google Roundnet Germany and Roundnet Germany Index, you will find the website. And then maybe I get into the divisions you were asking
Yeah,
before,
I
right?
think that's something super interesting. Just because in the EU there's like this gold now, like now gold pro status that's come about. The Spikeball Tour Series has had their premier status. There's in Germany, I know you guys have it's a pro status,
Yeah,
right?
it's pro.
But as far as how it's evolved over the years, definitely curious to know what you guys do for that.
Yeah.
Because I know in the U.S. We're working on so many different things. Is all I can really say as a volunteer for the USA Roundnet organization, just to similarly get people excited about playing Roundnet. So yeah, very curious to know what you guys do, and I'm sure we'll experiment a bit and learn from you guys.
Yeah, only 1 month ago we introduced a new division. Obviously, divisions are skill-based levels. So in the lower divisions, the people are playing who are not that skilled. Um, we also came up with a new name of it. Obviously, before it was beginner, but we felt like naming it basic will be better because it's a better name for us. And then we have the basic division, the intermediate division, the advanced division, the contender division, and the pro division as the highest level. Um, the pro division is reserved for the best of the best. You have to qualify for the pro division by finishing in on the podium in a contender division or something, and you can also lose this status if you don't yeah in it within a year state that you still have the level. You have to reach a certain positioning in some tournaments. Otherwise, you lose the status. That was the first time this year where we I think 3 or 4 people who haven't been playing um, cut the status off. But otherwise, in the other divisions, you can register and play. And we also um, have some borders based on the Roundnet Germany index for the divisions. So we figured out, looking to the statistics, okay, uh, talking about intermediate division, if you have a higher score than this number, you are not anymore allowed to play in the intermediate division. And if you have lower than a certain number, you are also not allowed. You have to play one below, because we are thinking that this is the best way to ensure that within one division the playing level is almost the same and everybody has the most fun. Because I think we all experienced that if you're a beginner, it's not fun to play against a pro player and vice versa. So
One specific thing I want to just give a lot of credit to the broader German community is you can't really have multiple divisions if you don't have enough teams, if you don't have enough players. And so a lot of communities I think understand and are bought in on wanting to keep players in the right developmental regions, and also for higher level players, you want to give them good competition, but you want to make sure it's an engaging like player experience. It's really valuable. There's always value in players that are different levels to play each other. But if too many players are separate by too much, then it I won't say it's a waste of people's time, but there's not a lot of learning and development that comes out of it for the newer player, and you're just kind of like biding time. It's a warm up for the high level player, and
yeah, that's,
that's something that you can't really have if you only have enough teams to field one or two divisions. So
yeah, that's
I
it.
just wanted to give a lot of credit that there are lots of communities that are doing things like this, but for Roundnet Germany to have 5 different like defined divisions instead of just hoping people pick the right division is I think a super interesting thing.
Yeah, last year we only had 4. Right now we introduced the contender division also to get into the international naming of it, because we didn't have a contender, but contender, in my opinion, was a very widespread thing in the US and also throughout Europe. So
Mm.
we introduced this, and to be honest, I'm pretty sure that most likely we will be able to fill all these divisions in the open and maybe in the mixed category, but we are struggling in the women's category a little bit. So most likely in the women's category, and also sometimes in open, we have to join the community. So there's a advanced and contender division, or advanced and intermediate division. But yeah, we're in a good place in Germany. There are so many players that we are able to do this dividing between the divisions.
I don't want to miss the chance to caveat that another big benefit of Germany is I guess the accessibility of a lot of travel inside Germany. So I, at least from my understanding in my short time visiting a couple of years ago, it's some of these tournaments have a lot of the same players because
Yeah,
they love Roundnet. They love the community, which those are all good things. But the fact that they're also able to get to all these tournaments and travel is not something that every country around the world has. Whether it's socioeconomic barriers, transportation barriers, logistical barriers to that. So um, I think you guys are doing a really good job capitalizing on a lot of good opportunity and like absolutely maximizing it. So I just wanted to give the kudos, but also contextualize. Sometimes I think for like North American audiences, it's like, oh, why can't like we have like a Bundesliga? And it's because you can't really fly from like California to Florida to
yeah,
like play your match day. It's just not. It's not necessarily where we're
that's
at.
not
There's we're
feasible.
gonna we're gonna have to do something different in the U.S. And so that's part of our growth problem here.
Yeah, that's it. I think the longest car drive you can have in Germany from north to south is like 11 hours or 12 hours, but that's from this most south point to the most north point.
Right.
So yeah, we benefit from them, and also talking about the tournaments which are near to a border to all the countries which are around Germany. We benefit from this because if there is a tournament in the south of Germany, there are many Swiss or French teams coming too
Yeah.
because they just can cross the border, and that's yeah, a big benefit from Europe. And obviously, Germany is the most populated country in Western Europe, and then it's easier to have many people in there, and they maybe only have to drive 1 hour or 2 hours by car instead of flying. I don't know how many hours you have in the US.
But by no means do I want to sell short all the really hard and great work that Round and German does and that the communities locally are
Um,
doing. I think it's like helpful context for like, oh,
obviously,
um,
obviously,
it's definitely part of the formula.
yeah,
But yes, I know we strayed a little bit from the player zone. I wanted to come back to it because we talked about stats and community building a little bit, but back to the player zone and just that as a tool. You said there's so many different things you want to pursue and how it's been a really helpful tool. Is there anything more that you have or maybe hope you have around that inspiring work in Germany or maybe elsewhere around the Roundnet community?
yeah. We are also using the player zone as a community builder. Let's say we have many funny, silly features. You have to look at them and tell me if it's funny, use good, or just silly. Where the community can connect. So we have a couch surfing on there. So if you're going to a tournament, you can write in there. Okay, I need some place to sleep. Is there maybe a local guy around who can offer me a couch or a bed where I can sleep? We also have this the same with the driving with a car to the tournaments. You can put something in there, and maybe someone will pick you up, and you drive to the tournament together. We also have a partner search in there. I think that's a big thing in roundnet tournaments. Sometimes you want to play, but you don't have a partner because your regular partner isn't available on this weekend, or you don't have a regular partner or whatever. That's why we did the partner search, and we improved or upgraded this feature. We did something like we call it Roundnet Tinder, round match. That's the name. It's working like Tinder. You just swipe people left and right, and if you swipe both to the right, you are able to have a match and then just connect and maybe play a tournament together. As you said, there's a prediction game. There are so many little features, I think, which is they are very valuable for the community, and they're using them. Just another quick thing, we also did a automated graphics for the tournament results. So you are able, after you play the tournament, with one or two clicks, to get a graphic of all your results in the tournament and your final place, and then you can put your own picture in the background via the player zone. You can download it and post it on social media, which is, yeah, more traffic on social media helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're hitting on so many things that aren't just specific to Roundnet, but are just part of giving people a good community experience and giving them a place they want to be and belong. And then also on the social side, grow it and share it and make it something that other people can be excited about getting
Yeah,
into. So it's so hard to do all of those things. There's all these little pieces, and I think like you mentioned for like MGL,
yeah,
just the work he's put in. When I was asking you about how is Roundnet Players Zone built, I know the MGL is like this mastermind behind. You're like, no, he's the only guy, he gets some help, but like he really gets like a lot of the hard work done is
Yeah,
just, I think, mind boggling.
yeah.
Especially when you contextualize that he's just a volunteer, and that's a maybe separate conversation about where we'd love to be as a sport and the economy of it. But it's a marvel.
Yeah, don't start the conversation on volunteers, because otherwise this one will take two
We
hours
can
from now on.
we can do a 2 hour conversation another time. I was gonna
Yeah,
say I'm just grateful that we got together because I know I put a lot of time into this. Where I know you do, and I know a lot of people do. But just the fact that right now neither of us are working on something, we're just talking about around it, is very unproductive. So I'm really grateful that you could spend this time just being unproductive with me and sharing a lot of information with a lot of people. I think it's been super helpful. I guess productive a
I,
little bit, but
I
you
I
know what I
think
mean.
I think maybe for you and me it feels like unproductive, but if we have listeners around there who say, okay, this is a good idea, I will try to do this, it's not unproductive, because we are sharing our ideas, and maybe something bigger will develop from that.
I'll keep my fingers crossed. But yeah, definitely just a cheeky joke there. I do agree. I've learned a lot from this conversation also, so I definitely appreciate it. One small thing about this Roundnet Germany player zone, you mentioned all these borders, all these other countries maybe come play to your tournaments, but more recently, in the past few months, Roundnet Germany actually hosted a Roundnet Switzerland tournament on the player zone. I would love to know more about that collaboration, the experimentation, and if it means anything for the future of the player zone.
Yeah, first of all, we were very. It was very nice that Switzerland got in contact with us and asked us if it's possible that they can host a tournament on the player zone. And we did an experiment. They just used our infrastructure and did their own tournament in there. Obviously, we're in talks with them. I can't tell you much more about it, but yeah, the infrastructure is there. We could include more tournaments from other countries in there, but then going back to all the volunteering stuff, there's a point where you can't handle this on a voluntary basis. But speaking for me, who is involved in there and wants to connect the whole world of Roundnet, I think the best thing which could happen is that for the whole Roundnet world, we have one page where we have one ranking system. I think looking at chess or table tennis or whatever, they have something similar, because obviously they have better structures than us. But if we could have this website, I don't know, in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you decide, this would be the
Really, you
best
decide,
thing.
you guys.
Yeah,
He's not kidding.
yeah, this would be the best thing. But yeah, we did an experiment with them, and we see where it goes. Maybe it will be a collaboration for the next days or for the next month or years. But we haven't been into talks. But yeah, it's possible. The big thing is always doing some more individual things, because Switzerland has a different ranking system than Germany has. And implementing this is much more work than just saying, okay, just take the infrastructure, people can sign up, and you can put the scores in. This one's very easy, but afterwards
Yeah.
it gets complicated. Yeah, and this is so much work.
Yeah, without worrying about, I guess, combining like standards for rankings or even like tournament structures. I
Yeah,
think that's something that you can figure out. But I do agree with you that if you could just wave a magic wand and we have the buy-in, everybody's on the same page. We're going to build. It doesn't have to be the player zone. Maybe it's something like it that
of course.
has all this fun functionality, has all these tournaments, and then I can also get into a subsection, look at how's the Roundnet Germany scene doing. How's the Roundnet Mexico standings? And I look at those rankings. I
That's
think
it.
that is I don't think these are hot takes, is I guess how I view them. Right, the how we get there, like you mentioned, the volunteer basis of it. Of course, financing has to become part of that equation of everyone putting resources together and building something together. But it's not just money. It's definitely also just the communication, the collaboration, and the want to be on
And
the same
and
page.
time and time.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't happen in a minute. I know, but
No, most
we
of the
keep wanting.
people in Roundnet having full time jobs, and they are doing it beside this full time jobs. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard, but as you said, having a magic wand, this would be great to have everybody involved there. And we did the player zone. We think for us this one works very well, but maybe there are other nations out there who say, okay, the player zone is a good idea, but the structure in our country is different. We do it a little bit different, and then they experiment. And so over time, we will find maybe the perfect website for Roundnet, and involve everybody in there. It's you have to try something. Try and error is so hard in a young sport as we are.
I want to put one wish out there into the Roundnet community for everybody to hopefully listen to, or at least we can share this with some people, is for Worlds 2022. I don't know if you remember the original schedule. The original schedule, one of the very fun things was that the last day was going to be a hat tournament where everybody plays with someone from a different country. And it's like, everybody's into that. That's great. Another thing that I was really excited about originally for Worlds in 2022, or maybe a different year in Belgium, was having working sessions, conferences, strategy sessions, where instead of Philip and I getting on this call, we've got all of Roundnet's most dedicated volunteers, the craziest Roundnet lovers, not just like talking about playing the sport, but also building the sport. And so my wish is for Worlds in London this year, I hope we can maybe carve out time for this. Maybe it's not like during the day when we're playing and watching play, but it's at night at some point. We have this session where we talk about sport and development, things like this. We talk about infrastructure. We talk about what we're experimenting with, and we can exchange ideas and kind of have that be part of our Worlds experience. That's something that I personally would love, because I can talk to as many one-on-one people as I want to, but at a certain point, we need to get everybody together and just have a big powwow about how we want Roundnet to move forward. And it can't really just be a Zoom call. That no. If you're not familiar, the IRF does a Zoom call with all the NGBs, and that is really good. That's really important. But I think we also need to get a lot of people working together and get their heads together on this kind of stuff. So that's my wish for Worlds. If we get like a 2 to 5 hour block one night, Jack Collard, British Roundnet, love all you guys. Would love to make that happen.
Yeah, maybe we have to write an email to IRF and say, tell them, okay, we are down for it. And then we do some conversations about it. I think I will be around in London from Wednesday evening. So
that's true. We can do before or after playing. Maybe it's the it's like for some sports like events, there's like a press conference. It's like I don't need to, like, we can do a press conference. I don't care. I want to do a sport development conference for Roundnet. That's my wish. That's all I want. I'll put this in writing somewhere too. I feel like it's really funny when people I'll complain, like someone will put on like a Discord server, like, we have to do this, and it's like, yeah, it's a good idea. Like, of course, yeah.
Let's do this.
There's plenty of great ideas out there, but let's actually do the work and make it happen. So I'm in for it.
I'm in too.
Sports Summit, Roundnet Sports Summit 2024 in London.
We already got a name. What else should we do? Just meet.
No, we can't give it all away. Yeah. Amazing. Well, I really appreciate this conversation, Philip. I didn't think I was going to come up with a wish at the beginning of this conversation, but I'm glad I did. So like you said, hopefully that can be one of a couple of things people take away, and we can push the community forward, push the sport forward all together. So thanks so much.
I also really enjoyed it. Thank you.